Well, here we are today, and we are going to be talking about aged care. Now, I know that most of us would like to pass peacefully with the sun on our back, reading a book on a deck chair with a beautiful view in front of us. But more often than not, we do have an increasing need for aged care services and support as we age, whether it's for ourselves, for a loved one, for a family member. And that's why we've got together today with John Carson from Carson Financial, who I know is an expert in this area. We've been working with John for the last 20 something years, and I've brought him here to talk about what's going on in the aged care space and why it's important to get good quality advice. So, John, welcome.
Thanks, Rod. Great to be along today.
So, what is it about aged care, John, that we should know about and what's going on in the moment?
It's complex, Rod, and most of us only experience it once or twice in our life. So, in my case, I have experienced it with my own parents and well in excess of 1,000 clients who I've helped along this journey, and the experiences are very different. So, the rules are complex, everybody's situation is unique and there are lots of options available for people.
And what does a typical client look like, John?
As I say, they're unique, but what tends to happen because there's a lack of planning in aged care is that I get a call saying mum's in hospital and isn't going to be allowed to go home.
Yeah, so I guess that begs the question, when should people be starting to think about aged care, specialist advice and planning?
It's a really difficult one to answer, Rod, because it is something that people don't want to face. My view is that we need to start earlier than we do. We need to know what's available and who to call. And that probably starts at around about retirement age.
Yep.
Almost 80% of Australians over 65 will at some stage need some aged care. As soon as we find that there are things in retirement that we can't do, we really should be getting registered in the system for my aged care so that we can get support as soon as we possibly can. That will help the transition to permanent residential aged care later on.
Yeah. Now, I know the timeframes have blown out and the complexity just keeps getting more and more difficult to deal with. But what are some of the, surprises that clients find when they first encounter or start dealing with the aged care system themselves?
So, what we find is that people are trying to register for the system and get support far too late. And a lot of people are trying to do it themselves. So, one of the things that I concentrate on is making sure they understand what the rules are, both for aged care and for social security. So, we try to start by arming people with the information that they need. The next thing is navigating two key elements in aged care. The first one is the actual clinical care. Now, I'm an accountant, so I always refer people off to get advice in relation to the clinical care needs because they're different for every single person. When those clinical care needs are assessed, I can then help people look at the financial consequences of their care needs. Now, that could be in regards to support at home, but it is more often than not in relation to residential aged care and the fees that people will be paying.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that in many of the cases that we deal with together, you've been involved heavily in completing the means tested assessment side of things, in calculating costs that clients might face, the cash flows that they could use to support aged care costs, etc. And one of the other typically very emotional areas is the family home. It's not just the potential client for aged care, but it's the other family members that may have an interest or a stake or at least an opinion around the family home. Is it always a fait accompli that the family home needs to be sold?
No, it isn't. And in fact, in many cases, people take their time to make a decision about the family home. Obtaining the information that you need to make the right decision is critical. Getting the mean test assessment allows people to have the knowledge as to the fees that they're actually going to be charged. And then we've got clarity about what can happen in relation to liquidating assets, including the family home. Now, what we find in most cases, people will sell their family home, but they don't have to do it in a fire sale and they don't have to do it on day one. So there's a lot of misunderstanding in relation to how you go about paying the aged care fees. The aged care fees relate to four main areas. There's the accommodation costs, there's the cost to look after the person for their everyday living needs, there's the contribution that a person makes towards their care, and then there's generally some fees for the extras that people need to pay for if they want luxuries like Foxtel and that sort of thing. So it is reasonably complex to understand all of those fees and charges, but there is no need to rush into a decision about the family home. So that's where we can come in and work with the client's trusted advisor. We can look at their cash flow, what happens to their net asset value over time, and actually give people the comfort that A, they won't run out of money, B, they don't have to make hasty decisions, and C, they can rely on professionals working together in their best interests.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, John. And maybe if you could just give us a little bit of an insight as to a financial advisor working with an aged care specialist such as yourself. What's the benefit a client can get out of that rather than just either going it alone or dealing with one professional?
It's a great question. The benefit to me working with you and with other financial advisors is that the financial advisor is the trusted professional in the relationship. I work collaboratively and cooperatively with you in my field. I don't get involved in investment decisions, but I outline the options that are available, and then the client looks to the advisor for that advice in relation to which is the best option for them. So I think it works very well.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So finally, what are some of the first steps that clients should be taking or at least thinking about as they encounter this challenge, with a partner or a family member?
Rod, I've thought about this literally thousands of times. To me, and it sounds a little bit of a cliche, but we should have good relationships with our children because about 80% of the time they're making decisions about where a mum or dad should be. So my feeling is the starting point really is a greater focus on the powers of attorney for financial and personal matters, having that discussion at an advisor level on a regular review basis to make sure that the children are on board in relation to what's important for mum and dad. I think we need to be clearer that when things are starting to fail, because in retirement we're going to have some healthy years, we're going to have some years where there is some disability, but still basically okay and needs some support around the home. And then there's going to be some years where we need to be looked after full-time at home or even in a nursing home, aged care facility. So to me, it's starting a bit earlier than we have. It isn't the phone call from the local hospital saying mum can't go home. It's involving the family at an earlier time and bringing them along for the journey. I think if mum and dad are starting not to be able to do things that they have historically done, that we start the process of getting them in the aged care system sooner and having discussions. Now, that's a very difficult conversation to have, but the reality is it's incumbent upon all of us and our professionals to just be aware that our clients are not as good as they were, and maybe we should be talking to their children at some stage.
Yeah, I think that's a great message, John. You'd rather be operating from a place of acting rather than reacting. And I think the earlier you can start to have these conversations when people are fit and healthy and start to raise them as topics that are discussable within a family, then the less emotion and reaction you tend to have to deal with in the moment. So I just want to thank you very much for explaining what you do and what an important area and also a growing area of need that this aged care specialist advice is, and the work that we do together as financial advisors and specialists in the aged care space.
Thank you very much, Rod. It's a pleasure to join you today. Thank you.